I've got for you today ABBA singing If It Wasn't for the Nights, and it's a very poignant song. It's got a very up-tempo pop beat to it, but don't be deceived because there's quite a story behind it. There's no need to give you a bio about ABBA because if you don't know anything about ABBA, where have you been? But today it's about the song itself. I'm going to quote something that the song was a reflection of Bjorn's state of mind during his divorce, an up-tempo song with despairing lyrics where the narrator dreads the end of the working day, when they will all be alone to deal with their own thoughts. He quotes, "There were times I was with Agnetha that I thought those nights myself. My lyrics were often based around fiction, but that must have been where this particular song came from." So that's the poignancy of what we're about. Now the song If It Wasn't for the Nights by ABBA explores his struggle to cope with the absence of a loved one during the nighttime. The lyrics portray a busy and hectic life during the day, which serves as a distraction from their feelings of longing. However, as the night falls, the emptiness and loneliness become more overwhelming. So, to finish, I've got appointments, work to do, the ABBA girls sing merrily on this track. Before thrilling, keeping me so busy all the day through. That's nice, you think. Here are the two people who seem to really enjoy their work. After that, you stop listening to the lyrics. It's hard not to. With those soaring strings, the thrilling extended ooh, the interpret of the verses, and the way the piano, as you'll hear, led chorus is introduced by Agnetha yelling "Yay, so bad." This is a track so uplifting it practically forces you to shimmy around the lounge and clap your hands twice at the ends of each bar. Not that I do this alone or anything, just to quote that. It comes of something of a shock 4 or 5 listens in when you realize that If It Wasn't for the Nights it's actually about contemplating suicide, or at least a state of extreme despair. The work that seems so fulfilling is actually just a handy distraction to mask the cracks of a post-breakup depression. And it's quoted by Bjorn, "I got my business to help me through the day. People I must write to, bills I must pay, but everything's so different when the night's on its way," it quotes. Now from the title, not to mention the style of the music, you'd be forgiven for thinking that nights were what the singer might look forward to, that precious time when they can abandon their mundane life and hit the dance floor. But no, in this song, it's quoted, "Fear's time when shadows start to fall, sitting here alone and starting on the wall," as you'll hear. Balancing these dark lyrics with a shiny pop exterior is hardly something ABBA alone mastered, but if it wasn't for the nights, it takes on the formula to the extreme. How did this song not become one of the band's best known records? I'll never know, as you'll hear. It would be the jewel in most bands' careers, yet for ABBA, it was one of just 3 tracks from their disco-flavoured Voulez-Vous, track 7 of the album, that failed to make it as an A or a B-side. A mere album filler. Madness, it's sheer madness. And why do I say that? Take a listen and you'll find out, and I'll be back for the summary of the lyrics.
Work I had to do, keeping me so busy.
Well, it's short and sweet, but there's a lot to it. There really is. Let's go through these lyrics, short and sweet. First one says, I got appointments, work I have to do, keeping me so busy all the day through. They're the things that keep me from thinking of you. Oh, baby, I miss you so. I know I'm never going to make it. Oh, I'm so restless, I don't care what I say. And I lose my temper 10 times a day. Still, it's even worse when the night's on its way. It's bad. Oh, it's bad. That first verse reveals Bjorn's consumed by appointments and responsibilities, and the band themselves, preventing them from thinking about the person they miss. The chorus expresses a sentiment of helplessness, suggesting that they believe they could manage it if it weren't that they could manage if it weren't for the nights. Because as we all know, when you're in a breakup, the nighttime is the loneliest time. You're supposed to go to sleep at certain hours, but you can't sleep, your body can't sleep. You're mentally drained, you're upset. And you can only imagine the breakup of, and I know that some people say you're pronouncing her name wrong, but Agnetha and Bjorn, when they were breaking up, it must have been horrendous to be in the most successful band of all time, even at that stage, breaking all the records. And yet, out comes this song, because that's the reality of what was going to happen. And their career was coming. Voulez-Vous was the album before the breakup. So it's like, you had Super Trooper as the last album thereafter, but I can only imagine to have done that video must have been so hard for the band itself. So hard. And yet they put a pop tune through it. And as I said before, it would have been most people's most poignant song off their career, but for ABBA it wasn't. They went on, as I said, to do Super Trooper and all of that thereafter. And they also, and Summer Night City and all of it, and those songs captivated an audience that believed they were forever, and there was no cracks. But obviously there was, because if we go back to the chorus, it says, somehow I'd be doing all right if it wasn't for the nights. And if it wasn't for the nights, I think I could make it, because it is the loneliest period. There's darkness in thoughts, darkness in how you function. You're not sleeping, there's an upset, and it's a huge upset. Remember, they were married and they shared children. So if it wasn't for the nights, it continues, I think I could take it. How I feared the time when shadows start to fall, sitting here alone and staring at the wall. Even if I could see a light, if it wasn't for the nights, even if I could think that I could make it, somehow I'd be doing all right if it wasn't for the nights. If it wasn't for the nights, I think I could take it. Well, that's an illusion anyway, because most people, when the nighttime comes, depression comes. That dark cloud never goes away. You share children, you share a love, you still have a love. The band continued, they still worked together, they still produced records, but it must have been hell on earth for them, because so much pressure from the outside world, and then personally in their lives. And people would say, oh, it was the pressure of the outside world that caused them to. We will never know what happened. At the end of the day, you can fall in love and fall out of love, children or not. It's just, I would never have associated this song with such sadness. So we go into verse 2, and verse 2 says, no one to turn to. You know how it is. I wasn't prepared for something like this. Now I see them clearly, the things I miss. Oh baby, I feel so bad. I know I'm never going to make it. I got my business to help me through the day. People I must write to, bills I must pay. But everything's so different when the night's on its way. It's bad. It's so bad. Because that second verse further develops into his isolation, Bjorn's isolation, highlighting the lack of support or solace in their life. Although they have work and obligations, the band as a whole, the night amplifies, as I've just read, the feelings of sadness and longing. And the chorus is repeated, emphasizing the longingness for the nights to bear easier. And then it goes on to the chorus, because it says somehow I'd be doing all right if it wasn't for these nights. So the nights are the main focal point of this song, and you would never think it again with that pop tune, the way it's uplifting in tempo. And the girls are dancing and they're playing, and you just wouldn't think anything is wrong. It's a classic ABBA song, but it never made A or B, and I think Bjorn made sure it didn't. It was a gap filler, but he didn't want it released because it was too personal. I feel it was as simple as that. Because he says, how I fear the time when the shadows start to fall, sitting here alone and staring at the wall. Even I could see a light. Even I could see a light if it wasn't for the nights. Even I could see a light, I think I could make it. Because when you've got daylight, your thoughts are clearer. Think about that. It's a psychology of a breakup. You don't want the nights because it's darkness, your dark thoughts, it makes you depressed. But somehow the change of light can make all the difference to a person. And that's why I've often said to friends when they break up, go on a holiday where a country has a lot of sunshine, long evenings of sunshine. You get as much light in that because it's true, what your eyes see, your heart feels. And if you can have the warmth of the sun, at least you've got the warmth of the sun instead of cold thoughts, dark nights, and the darkness that hangs over you. You must reverse the psychology of it all. You must turn that negative into a positive, even with your surroundings, to help you move forward. The chorus continues, if I could see, even I could see a light if it wasn't for the nights. So Bjorn is very, very depressed. He's at a very, very low point in this song. It's obvious. Guess my future would look bright if it wasn't for the nights. So depression has hit in, it's kicked in hard. And he's in the pit of depression here. Because he says, if it wasn't for the nights, I think I could take it. And then the chorus repeats all of that. And at the very end he says, I guess my future would look bright if it wasn't for the nights. So my summary of this wonderful uplifting pop themed tune that we've listened to, that you think ABBA classic, and even I was moving my head and my body to the music. But my summary of the lyrics are this: the song conveys a deep sense of longing and a yearning for a loved one. Even with the breakup, imagine what they have shared together as a group, and Bjorn and Agnetha, what they have shared as a couple, not just children, themselves every day, supporting themselves. When she was in a different band, when she was young, and she had joined ABBA, and he wrote songs specially for her, all of that sharing, coming to a sudden climax and playing. But he must have played in that particular video, just stood there, played the guitar, and it was almost repetitive syndrome within himself just to do it. But if you look at the video and study it carefully, his facial expressions was motionless. Benny on the piano was moving his head, and they were all clapping, but he was just motionless and going through the motions. The lyrics enabled me to see that in the video. But again, this is my summary, everybody, of the song. It is a deep sense of longing and yearning for a loved one. If it wasn't for the nights, particularly during the nighttime when their absence is most deeply felt. It is for anybody going through that. It portrays the struggles of trying to fill a void with distractions during the day, but ultimately realizing that the nights are the most challenging. So there you go. That was the gap filler for Voulez-Vous, track 7 on the album. One of ABBA's greatest albums. For me, I love the song Voulez-Vous, and I'm going to react to that pretty soon. But thank you for listening, and I hope now we get an understanding of a track that would have, as I said, been anybody's pre-ultimate number one song of all time, but yet for ABBA it was just a gap filler. That's the power of ABBA, that's the power of the lyrics. And if it wasn't for the nights and me reviewing this, I wouldn't have known the deep, sensitive, emotional turmoil that is attached to it, especially when they balanced it with a pop tune that uplifts you. So for me, it's the pop tune and the music is the daylight and true ABBA-esque, but the lyrics is, if it wasn't for the nights, is the thoughts and feelings of Bjorn during that difficult period for them both. Amazing group, amazing song, and I hope you enjoyed my analysis. Take care for now.